G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Saturday the 17th of August 2019 and the time here is 09:55 Australian Standard Time. Well folks, I want to focus on just two things today, China and the economy, because there are some worrying things that are going on and I'm going to show you something that I'm hoping by what they say 6 degrees of separation, the Kevin Bacon syndrome, that one of you knows a federal agent who can actually look at this and say, yeah, this is actually spying. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm hoping that you guys can take it further, because I don't actually know anybody. So, but it's actually a real worry, what I'm going to show you. Alrighty, sponsor. This is my sponsor, Totally Rawsome, who make golden activated turmeric paste, amongst other things, choco balls, protein balls, etc., and also turmeric paste for your dogs. This stuff is fantastic, folks. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you're not using it, you should be. I've had great feedback from everyone who has used it, and that includes me. I haven't had anyone write back to me and say, oh, this stuff's shit. It's absolutely fantastic. It really does work, and it's done wonders for me and everybody else who's tried it. So give it a go. And they also have a deal going for you people in UK. If you want some, they will pay half of your first order. Okay, that's delivery. Half of the delivery for your first order only. Alrighty. Now, there was something that happened yesterday as regards to China. And as you all know, there's something going on in Hong Kong, which has been the flames kept going by the US, I believe. So, you know, you don't have to be Einstein to work that one out. You know? Morning coffee. So I take my head back a bit. It's a bit too close, wasn't it? You have to think, what are they trying to achieve? Freedom? Well, they can't have freedom because they're now part of China. So, as I said before, the logical way to look at this is that America's fanning the flames. They want China to invade Hong Kong, then turn around and go, wow, look at that. How aggressive are the Chinese? Because if they do, you do realise that if they invade China, Hong Kong, sorry, is that the right word, invade? If they send the military in, Hong Kong's part of China, so they can't invade it, I guess. If they actually do go in, send the troops in, there will be blood on the streets, because it's not like a normal city. Hong Kong's just like a cram-packed urban sprawl, high density. So you'd literally be fighting from building to building if it got that serious. Now, I wouldn't mind betting that there's arms being sent there, etc., and all that sort of crap to arm up the separatists, of, you know, revolutionaries, whatever you want to call them. People who just want their own freedom because they're living in a totalitarian. This is what people forget. China is a communist state. It's run by dictators. It's not free. You don't have freedom there. While I'm doing this video, do you realise that they've rounded up 1 million Uyghurs, or whatever they're called, and put them in detention? 1 million to re-educate them. Now, when was the last time you heard of anything like that happening? Nazi Germany? But the world just sort of goes, okay, we don't need to know. But regardless of the people's religion, you might say, oh, okay, well, they're Muslims. Yeah, well, the other people were Jews. So you can't just, they're humans. They're human beings. They have a right to life. They have a right to freedom, like everybody. You can't just round people up and shove them in a camp and say we're going to re-indoctrinate. That's what they did in Cambodia. Do you remember? 1.2 million of them died. Oh, they were killed. They didn't die, they just got killed. 1.2 million. So, look, you know, I get some bizarre emails as regard, or comments as regards to China. And I'm actually going to show you one in a minute, which is kind of worrying, and you'll see why. But there's a lot going on in China, and there's a lot going against China at the moment, and they're struggling. One of their biggest banks went bust about 20 days ago or something. It went completely under. Yeah. And there's a lot of smaller banks in China at the moment that are struggling, absolutely struggling. This trade war is killing China. And they are going to, very soon, they're going to come out swinging because they have no choice left. That's how bad it's getting. Right. Now, for all you people overseas who don't know this, yesterday in Australia, we had Hong Kong protests for Hong Kong in every major city in Australia. Now, I'm going to show you a video of what happened and this is a real worry, and I can guarantee you that it was an absolute shock for a lot of Australian politicians and Australian, I don't guess the Secret Service, ASIO, which is the Australian version of the MI5 and that, I don't think this would be a shock to them. I think they already knew this, but I'm going to show you the video from the ABC as to what happened. So the Hong Kong demonstrations were all around the country, Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, Melbourne, South Australia, mainly on the eastern seaboard. I don't know if there was one in Perth. So hang on a sec. Sorry about that. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, it was supposed to be a peaceful protest, and that's what it was for. It was just protest for the people in Hong Kong by some Hong Kong Chinese people, I'm guessing. Now, that's all well and good, but then watch this video and you'll understand what happened. And there's something really important in this video that I'm hoping you guys see. I'm going to show it to you anyway if you don't see it, but watch this video. This is the news article here. I'll put a link in the description box for you so you can watch it again. But this is the video, so watch this.
The scenes here earlier in the afternoon were pretty heated. We had around 70 to 80 pro-Hong Kong protesters here getting their message across. They were obviously against the extradition bill, but mainly the message today was against the police brutality, which they say has been occurring in Hong Kong, and they say it's been ramping up in Hong Kong over the past few days. We weren't really expecting the response that we got. There was then more than 100 pro-Chinese demonstrators who turned out to answer the pro-Hong Kong demonstrators. The two sides did clash at a point as well. There were some pretty heated scenes when the pro-Chinese claimed that one of the Hong Kongers put his hands on a female protester from the Chinese side. That's when the police were forced to get in between the two groups of protesters. There were extra reinforcements called down from South Australia Police, and they then formed a line in between the two groups of protesters to make sure the scenes didn't get any more heated than they were already. One side was chanting, the other side was then responding with some chants. One side was yelling and singing, the other side was then responding with more yelling and singing. So it was quite dramatic here this afternoon. It went on for longer than the protest was planned. It went on for a couple of hours.
Now, there's a couple of things that really worry me as an Aussie that should worry you, I'm guessing, as an Aussie. And even if you're not an Aussie, someone watching that. You had a pro-democracy rally for Hong Kong on one side with Chinese people and Australians, by the way. Then you had Chinese students in Australia protesting against the democracy. Do you understand what I'm saying to you here? Can you imagine, right? This should be a real eye-opener for everyone. Can you imagine what's going to happen if we or America gets hostile to China? There's something like 200,000 of these kids in Australia. Think about that. There's over 1 million Chinese people here in Australia. Think about that. And they've been told by their Chinese government, even though they're Australian citizens, they must be loyal to China. That was an edict that was put out a couple of weeks ago by their dictator for life, Xiao Jinping, or whatever the bloody hell his name is, Ding Bing Ding, or Bing Bing, whatever it is, Bang Bang, Dum Dum. So if you're an Australian watching that, you should be absolutely furious, because what you just witnessed was people from another country protesting against people who want democracy in our country. Now, as that woman said, I don't know if you could actually hear it, but if you didn't, watch the video back. Now, there's one really important piece in this video that they filmed, and everybody should be shocked by it. I'll show you exactly what it is. Hang on a second. This image here of this bloke here, this Chinese national, right, who,
to get in between the two
watch his
groups of
face.
protesters. There were extra reinforcements called down from South Australia Police, and they then formed a line in between groups of protesters. There were and the police were forced to get in between, put his hands
Watch his
on a
face.
female protester from the China.
Does that look like somebody who's filming Hong Kong? He's filming the Hong Kong demonstrators. Does that look like somebody who may be a Chinese communist spy, for example? Can you give me any good reason why someone would put a balaclava around their face, go to that, film the people? And by the way, if you look at the beginning of the video, you can actually see him standing off to the side, like right to the side on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll see him filming the protesters for Hong Kong. Now, can anybody explain to me why that guy wasn't arrested on the spot? Because he wasn't actually he was actually filming these people. And I would imagine those people are now shitting themselves that their parents, relatives, etc. in China aren't getting cut to pieces right now, because that's what this guy was doing. And I can't understand why no one has raised this issue. So I'm hoping you guys on your side, if you know anybody in the federal government or anybody, federal police or whatever, this needs to be ratted out. And this guy needs to be found, and this whole thing needs to be stopped, because we actually now have spies, Chinese spies, working for China in Australia. That's proof of it. Why would he do that otherwise? There's no reason for him to do that unless he was sending it back to China. And why would he cover his face? And hey, I may be wrong. He may have been filming the Chinese side, but I don't think so. So that is a real red flag. We actually have physical evidence of a Chinese spy in Australia filmed by the ABC, and nobody said anything about it. So please, if you know anybody in the federal government or the federal police, show them that video and say, hey, listen, this guy's a bloody spy. This is not a joke. if you know anybody in Asia, show them that. I'm sure they know of it anyway. But everybody was caught napping yesterday. And the actual real issue here is that they were shocked to death by what they saw yesterday. And don't forget, there's 200,000 of these students, excuse me, in Australia. So that's, what are we going to do if they decide to have a huge protest for Hong Kong in Melbourne, for example? And I mean a huge one. Are these Chinese people going to come out and start kicking and punching everyone? I'm telling you, we're going for a big, big, big kick in the face soon from these guys. And you're all going to go, wow, didn't see that coming. Well, that's proof yesterday that it is coming. Now, I've got one other thing that I want to show you. Sorry, this video is going to take a little bit longer than normal. In all the time I've done my videos, sorry, I have a sip of my coffee. You know, I get the odd comment here or there that I just sort of, yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter to me really. But on my video recently, China Dilemma, I got a comment from an obvious Chinese person that really worried me. This was before what I just showed you, right? So this was a couple of weeks ago. And it really worried me because it didn't at first. And then I reread it. I reread some of his comments and I'm thinking, okay, this guy's obviously Chinese and he's obviously here in Australia. You would think that he was here in Australia because they can't get YouTube. I don't think they can get YouTube in Hong Kong, China. So I just want to show you the comment. And the reason I want to show you the comment is because of what I just said. If this person is in Australia, then this is a real worry because it tells me that we have submersive people living within our country. China had been around their South Sea, this guy here, ZHMZ888, 2 weeks ago. China had been around their South Sea for 10 centuries, and Australia had just have turned 200 years as a state. And you are claiming South Pole, where China had never mentioned anything. Maybe you cannot afford to travel. Go out and have a look and come back. You would be eager to delete your blog because it's laughing stock. Someone actually had a go at him about his grammar, but as if you are the Christian, I reckon that you are a Satan. Have you ever been to China? How sick you are. China got every right to defend its own interests. Is that everyone have to listen to you? Effing bullshit. The worst of all, you dared to claim you're Christian. What a joke. Well, if he's actually from China, he's got no reason to call anybody a joke, really. A slave monetary dictatorship covered by titiment and populism, and a citizen of our state gets exiled on someone 10 kilometres away. I don't understand that. Aggressive, bullshit. So far, ROC, official name of a state, Taiwan, constitution, clearly said their territory, including mainland. Do you mind to read it? No one would stand separatists. Check it out yourself. Now, some people did comment back to him and say, you know, get your grammar right for a start, mate. So the guy's obviously Chinese, right? My concern is that if that guy is actually living here in Australia, that's the concern. Is he an Australian citizen? That's a real worry. If you have Chinese people in Australia who think like that, they should not be here in Australia. It's as simple as that. And I'm not trying to stir up rhetoric here or anything, but that's a pure fact. We're living in bloody really serious times here, folks, and you need to wake up a bit if you haven't already. And those people that you see, you know, the Chinese people that are buying all the houses and blah, 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 blah. Well, which side of the bed are they lying on? Because comments like that tell me that they're not lying on the Australian side. And if we actually did go to war with China, then, or they invaded Australia, then we're automatically fighting 200,000 kids from China that are already here. Think about that. So all these machinations that are going on at the moment behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure that ASIO, US and Australia were talking about this very issue the last time they all met up, and they're still talking about it. So you need to pay attention to how aggressive the Chinese are getting in Australia, because it can only go one way, and that's them going back to China. Think about that. They'll be asked to pledge either to Australia or China, and they get a choice. I think this is where this is all going. Now, when this protest happens and the counter-protesters slam into these people in Australia, then people are going to start taking notice and go, hey, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And you know what the real issue is? What the real problem is that we've been blinded by greed because of China. Easy money, make money. Don't worry about the million people that get put in concentration camps. Don't worry about the harvesting of body parts. Don't worry about everything else. Don't worry that it's a communist country, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, that's what happened in Nazi Germany. Exactly the same thing. And it's not too far-fetched to say that, because that's exactly the same thing. There's no difference. So we're heading for a big blue here, folks, very soon. Right, I just want to touch on the economy for a second. This is trading economics. Now, I'm not going to delve too deep into this. I'm just going to reiterate something that I said the other day. You can't find any good news in here, just about. It's, it's dire. It's pretty bad now. It's getting worse by the day. You obviously all know about the stock market crashing, the Australian dollar being devalued, because it's devalued every day, really. Now, the only thing I'm going to say here is you really, really need to get ready. Look, and hey, listen, please don't write me emails or text comments, saying, oh, I've had my gear ready for 3 years and nothing's happened. Well, I've had my gear ready for about 4 years now. Could have happened yesterday. Could have happened a year ago. But you need to understand that they've kept this going by producing more debt. That's the only way they've kept this going, by producing more debt. At some point, that debt bubble is going to go, whoop. Now, you saw the Dow dive 800 points in a day, one of the highest ever. So you've got to start looking at things realistically. If you haven't bought your seeds yet, go and buy some. If you haven't got a veggie garden yet, get it going. Pay off as much debt as you can. Get your money out of the banks. All the usual stuff. Have you got your bug out bags ready just in case you have to go? I went and had a colonoscopy yesterday because I don't want to be 3 years down the track here going, oh, I've got a gut problem, find out I've got cancer. I'm 55. You know what I mean? So these are all the preparation things you need to get done. Go and get your teeth done. Sounds silly, but the last thing you want to be doing is going, oh man, I got a toothache 1 year down the track because you just didn't go and get that tooth fixed that you needed to get fixed. All those stupid little things are going to add up. So please don't write to me and say, oh, I've been preparing, nothing's happened and I'm throwing stuff away. Well, yeah, okay, great. Go and buy some more. Keep your wits about you. Keep your eyes open and your ears open. Remember number one, and remember that your family is number two. You know, 1, 2. So the shit's hitting the fan on a daily basis. There's so much, look, honestly, there's so much news going about at the moment, I can't even keep up. That's how bad things are. Economically, you could just about, you can't find anyone anymore who doesn't think that we're in shit street. So think about that. All the professionals that you and I know, and David Morgan's coming back on the show soon to do an interview. He asked me if he could he actually asked me if he could come on and do an interview because things are that bad, because he wants to warn people. He actually sent me an email, a specific email saying, mate, got to do another interview. Things are so bad. I just need, you know, we want to help as much people as we can. So, you know, I can't reiterate enough, you know, it's get your car serviced. Has it got all the tyres right? Have you got your punch kits? You know, just start picking away at this stuff. Get a list going and start making sure that you're ready. Because it could be anything now, folks. The Chinese, the Americans, the dollar crashing, the stock market crashing. You know, all these things are starting to add up. And if you haven't realized, America is consolidating its military might at the moment. And when Trump's been in power for 3 years now, so it's taken that long to build it back up to a substantial force to repair everything, get everything ready again. So they're not going to be mucking around. When they go to anywhere soon, whenever they go, they're not going to muck around. And as regards to China and Hong Kong, you need to be looking a little bit further north as well, because if China goes into Hong Kong, I wouldn't mind betting that they go into Taiwan and they snuff all this out once and for all. So just watch this space. Okay, all right, let's do the prayers. Okay, verse of the day. Therefore, since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God. That's a pretty good one. And as always, folks, we'll finish with the Lord's Prayer. And the reason we're doing this is because I can, and because people don't want me to. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Righto, folks. Sorry it went so long. Just thought I'd have a discussion. Prep out. God bless.